I've been going to Alaska's Brooks Range for over 40 years. And at first, I'd go up there to climb mountains and raft rivers and ski across the tundra in winter. But these days, I go for some new reasons that have to do with science and young people from the university where I teach. So we've been walking tree line, shown here in purple, linking our 20 tree line study sites by foot and pack raft from Canada to Kotzebue. The students include a bunch of young people, and if we look up from clockwise from the left, there's Toshio, the teenager, and Russell, the mathematician, Julia, the artist, Maddie, the deckhand, Scout, the musician, and in the lower left, Alan, the Yupik mountain guide from Bethel, carrying our bear gun. Together, we walk across the mountains on month-long 300-mile expeditions. We collect data on tree lines, deploy data loggers, map vegetation and route, and then compare it to satellite images when we get back. Besides being one of the fastest changing climates in North America, it's the biggest protected conservation complex in the US. And I think it's among the best places in the world for wilderness travel, with rivers shallow enough to wade, deep enough to float, and clean enough to drink without treatment. Nameless valleys and shining mountains offer easy hiking and wonderful views. There's generally not too much brush, but plenty of wood for campfires. The light is fantastic, and in the summer, it never really gets dark. So to mix science and adventure requires that we travel light and that we all get along, sharing tents and cook pots, food and good attitudes. To save weight, our tents have no floors, and we bring sleeping quilts rather than sleeping bags, and we make our gear do all kinds of double duty, like we hold up our tent with our paddles or our trekking poles. We also carry pack rafts to cross and float rivers and paddle lakes. These rafts are light and compact and inflate quickly and easily. The one on the right, carrying the 3 young women, weighs only 11 pounds, while the one Toshio is paddling on the left weighs 7. They're well worth their weight for the chance to get off of our feet and get the loads off of our backs. While summer days in the Brooks Range can be hot and dry, there can also be cold and wet days, and we had our share of those, and mosquitoes, and wet tussock tundra, and wasp stings and bad brush. But art and music and laughter, campfires and plenty of food, with pre-placed food drops every week to 5 days, kept our spirits high. Some of the changes we've seen are innocuous, like this 12-year-old spruce growing in an alpine tundra of dryas, lichen, and blueberry. But other change is more sinister, like the so-called shrubification, where there's explosion of willows and alders growing all across the Arctic, happening during the last few decades, or the discoloration of streams and rivers by minerals leaking out of recently unfrozen ground. This is climate chaos, expressed as permafrost thaw, with draining ponds, collapsing forests, leaching minerals, drying tussock tundra, and even moose trapped in slumping mud like some ancient bison in the La Brea tar pits. Shrubification is more than just vegetation change. It's changed migration routes of caribou who don't want to push through head-high brush. Now the caribou aren't even showing up where the subsistence hunters expect them to, and the locals blame the out-of-town trophy hunters for the caribou's disappearance. Here is Julia's illustration of these Brooks Range changes, inspired by her 700 miles and 10 weeks of wilderness travel and observation. Landslides and slumps, staining and draining, drying tussocks, disappearing sheep, moose, and birds. Which brings me back to this seedling on a tussock. This is a natural response to a warming climate that's drying out the Arctic tundra and making it hospitable to a native species at the edge of its geographic range. Spruce, like these here growing in the Kobuk Valley, have moved no farther than this since they arrived downstream about 10,000 years ago. The oldest tree in the photo dates from the 1700s, but until less than 100 years ago, none had made it over the mountains and into the Noatak Basin, where they've been absent since the last interglacial 75 to 100,000 years ago. These seedlings are all less than 20 years old, and they are germinating on top of a low mountain. In fact, there's spruce seedlings another dozen miles north of here. There are thousands of spruce trees growing in this area. The oldest arrived as a seed blown over the mountains by winter winds in 1922, and now they're thriving. The little one is about 6 years old, and the big one is 60. While I know that these spruce are the result of anthropogenic climate change, it's my hope that my students see the value in large wilderness like this, that big wilderness can absorb the changes we humans have wrought, like it has in the past. Or can it?